Lakers for life, NBA playoff roundup. The conference finals for the East and West are set. We got OKC and Mini versus Indiana and the New York Knicks. Was it the outcome you expected? I'm going to give you my thoughts and reactions and predict who's going to come out of each conference. In the meantime, please like, subscribe, and definitely comment. Whether you like it or hate it, drop a comment and debate it. But let's get into it. So, OKC just gets through a grueling 7-game series against the Nuggets. And we're going to start with them in this roundup. So, we can look at it from two sides. Hey, it was the Nuggets series. They blew 2 games, games 4 and 5, where they were up, had bad fourth quarters. And then Aaron Gordon was hurt, blowout game 7. This was the Nuggets series to be won. Or we can look at it from another perspective, right? OKC was resilient for the inexperience that they had in the playoffs. They overcame the experience of the Nuggets and were able to withstand their runs, close out games in games 4 and 5. And, you take it to a game 7, risks like injuries do happen. OKC has stayed healthy, and they beat the bricks off the Denver Nuggets in game 7. I mean, I will be honest and say that I had Denver Nuggets winning that second round series. I did say that was going to be OKC ceiling in a bracket that I had with some friends, but it was because I still think Jokic is the number 1 player in the NBA, and they have the experience. As a Laker fan, we've seen time and time again how Denver executes down the stretch. And they did what OKC did. They let you kind of stay in the game, and then they go on those runs to seal it. It didn't happen. They had a lack of depth, and OKC capitalized on it. But, to be fair, I will say that OKC had some tremendous defensive stretches. I'm a huge Alex Caruso fan, and he put on an absolute display in that series. I mean, the man was guarding on the perimeter, but he was guarding Jokic. Let's be real here. He was guarding Jokic and was being very physical. Some can debate that, the rules of officiating are different when a guard is guarding a big, and that, they get away with being a little more physical than what a big would be in that situation. Regardless, the man is 6'5", guarding the best player in the NBA, and he did a fantastic job. I think that was a huge X factor for OKC. They didn't shoot the ball from 3 well, collectively. We'll see what happens with that once we talk about the actual round with Minnesota. But they go on these defensive stretches and they make you pay. I mean, the points off turnovers today was 39-7 in game 7. That's ridiculous. They make you pay. They go on stretches quickly. We see 7-0 runs in a minute and a half, 8-0 runs. They had a huge run in the first half, and Denver just couldn't catch up, and they would get killed end of quarters. I think OKC is poised. They've been the number 1 team, all season. And even with that lack of experience, they're growing each series. Shea, I think he's going to be the MVP. He's going to need a big series in the Western Conference Finals. Jalen Williams needs to be consistent. He had a good game today, and when he plays well, the team is great. I mean, they have the 2 bigs in Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein. I haven't been too impressed with Chet so far. Can't really create on his own, but he's still a presence in the middle. He can block shots. He's going to need to be more physical. We saw when those matchups would happen with Jokic would do his thing, right? I thought Caruso was more physical than Chet. Isaiah Hartenstein is a big. They have depth, with Lou Dort. You see Wiggins make shots, big threes. Cason Wallace. They got players. They have depth. And I think if Jalen Williams shows up, they get a little bit more production out of Chet, and they can shoot the ball collectively from 3. They're going to be a heavy favorite in the Western Conference Finals. That's going to be huge for them. So going on to Minnesota, before we talk about the Western Conference Series, have they really been tested? I mean, be honest, right? I mean, the Lakers fumed out, gassed, outsized. They weren't very big. in those games, but Minnesota pulled it out, even though they didn't shoot the ball particularly well. Golden State didn't have Steph Curry, so I can't really say that they dominated that series in 5 games when the best player on the other team's not playing for pretty much the whole series. But regardless, they're in the Western Conference Finals again. And I think their unsung hero has been Julius Randle. He's been playing consistently on both sides of the ball, which has been surprising. He brings a level of physicality for them. He's been their top player, and it's been a surprise. And I think he's going to be absolutely critical for the Western Conference Finals. Ant Edwards, obviously the star. He's the head of the snake. And they have bigs, Naz Reid, Rudy Gobert, along with Julius Randle, and they have some depth themselves, right? McDaniels, their defensive ace. You have DiVincenzo, who hasn't been real present, I'd say, in the playoffs. You got Conley with some experience, but I think between the two teams, and if we break down the Western Conference Finals, this is going to be Minnesota's first true test in the playoffs, in my opinion. And that level of intensity that OKC brings, the physicality, is going to really test what Minnesota is made of, right? I mean, you look at the matchups, and it's great, I think. You're going to get Edwards and Shea, right? McDaniels on Jalen Williams. The bigs, right? Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Hartenstein versus Rudy Gobert, Julius Randle, Naz Reid. The matchups are there. Who exploits those matchups? That's where the interesting part is going to be. Edwards is going to have to be a big-time two-way player against Shea, and Edwards has the capability to do that. Shea's going to be the MVP, and he's going to be playing against a guy like Edwards, maybe a McDaniels, right? Maybe Edwards starts on Jalen Williams, but regardless, those matchups are going to be big. And I thought the big key to the Denver series was being able to slow down Jalen Williams and not let him get off. Because when they did that, they were in the game. And if it wasn't for the fourth quarter execution issues and the turnovers, that series could have been Denver. So will Minnesota be matching up to ensure that Jalen Williams does not have an easy series? And they have the defenders to do that. I'm looking forward to seeing that, whether it be Edwards or whether it be McDaniels on Jalen Williams and Shea. I think that's going to be a really, really fun matchup. Alex Caruso, on the other hand, at OKC is going to probably take the Edwards matchup. And I think he's going to do a damn good job out on the perimeter against him. Edwards hasn't seen a defender like that just yet. So how he copes with that level of physicality, especially if the officiating stays, hey, we're going to let you guys be physical. I mean, you can argue that OKC got away with a lot, and they were so physical and got away with a lot that the refs couldn't call everything, right? Everyone would be fouled out, essentially. Will that physicality be allowed in the Western Conference Finals? And if OKC exploits that, they're going to be in great position. Now, we get to Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstein, right? Julius Randle, very, very physical player. He's not the caliber of Jokic by any means, but he can bring that same level of physicality. He's going to bang down low. He's going to try to get in your chest when he takes it to the rack. And that's something Chet's going to have to deal with, or Isaiah, right? They're going to have to deal with that level of physicality. So will Julius Randle be what he has been in the first two series in that OKC series? Gobert, can he stay on the floor? Possibly. If he can hang with Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein, he gives some rim protection down low, which I thought, kind of lacked with Denver, especially when Gordon went down in Game 7. And then you have Naz Reid. Who's going to hit the three ball in that series consistently, right? Is it going to be Minnesota? Are they going to get hot? Or is OKC going to turn it up a level and score at will? They have the defensive intensity to make Minnesota turn the ball over, but Minnesota also has some great players, but they're going to be tested. Again, this is the first series I think that is going to be competitive for Minnesota. They're playing a fully healthy OKC team. So if we get into my prediction, drop your predictions in the comments, please. I do think because Minnesota hasn't seen this level of intensity of OKC, OKC's young even though they got through a 7-game series, I think it's going to be OKC. I'm going to say in 6 games. I think Minnesota's going to be able to pull off a couple. But if that physicality stays that OKC brought and they're able to force turnovers, they are on their way to the finals. I thought Denver is going to be their biggest test, really. So OKC coming out of the West, I think it's going to be a fun series. If Edwards takes advantage of that matchup against Shea and Shea's crowned MVP, I hope Edwards takes that personally. It's going to make for some good commentary throughout that series. So we'll see. We'll see if Minnesota steps up, but I think OKC is the favorite in this. So let's switch it up and get to the Eastern Conference. New York Knicks, right? Beating the Boston Celtics, the favorites in my books to win the entire playoffs, being champions. That's what I thought, going into the playoffs. Tatum got hurt. Granted, New York was on their way to winning that game. They were up, they got up 3-1. That series was theirs. And it's the same thing kind of like OKC. Could you have said the Knicks had a couple fluke games and had those comebacks, and Boston just choked them away those first couple games? But you can also say they were resilient. Again, they built their team with Bridges, OG Anunoby, bringing in Cat to beat the Celtics, and that's exactly what they did. Granted, Tatum wasn't there the last couple of games. We found Jaylen Brown had a partially torn meniscus, but they handled that series, and they handled it well. Jalen Brunson has been playing fantastic basketball. Josh Hart continues to be a big defensive anchor and just bringing overall energy. Mitchell Robinson has been banging on the boards, bringing physicality. And then you got Bridges, Anunoby, and Cat. That's a formidable unit right there. And I think them handling the Celtics the way they did brings, them to be an interesting contender now, right? Can they get to the finals? And then moving to Indiana, they handled their series and they made the Cavs pay. Sure, the Cavs were injured, but that was a big-time team in the regular season. But Indiana has that depth. They go deep throughout their roster. You still have Halliburton doing his thing. You have Siakam, so you have players in Siakam that can score. Halliburton distributing that ball. But they got so many role players that just stepped up. Miles Turner, been having a great playoffs. Nembhard brings intensity. Naismith, big time two-way action. TJ McConnell. You go down the list. Obi Toppin, right? Like, they have a lot of depth. And I'd say the teams that are in the, that are going to be the favorites, in my opinion, have that depth. OKC have youngs, and they develop these youngs that can produce in games, right? They have some experience with Caruso. Indiana has that depth. I even mentioned TJ McConnell, right? Or maybe I did, but I had to say that again. They have depth. Indiana has depth. So when I'm looking at a series against the Knicks, Indiana versus New York, I think it's just two very different styles. I mean, New York has defense. They have Jalen Brunson, a proven scorer. But one thing Indiana does is they keep that pace up. It's a Rick Carlisle system. They do play defense. And I think with that run and gun, they do have scorers as well too. And with that depth, I do think I have them as the favorites in that series. And I think this one's going to go 7 games. But I think Indy's going to pull it out. And that's wild to me to say that I have Indy going to the finals. And it's OKC and Indy in the finals. 2 small market teams. This is Adam Silver's dream. For the Knicks to really do their thing, Jalen Brunson has to be him. And how do they withstand that depth? Can they grind out this series against a young Indiana team? And remain productive. I don't think they have that, rotation that Indiana can pull. And minded, Indiana doesn't have name brand players, but they all play a solid brand of basketball. And I think that's going to be the difference in the game. You know, they've been to the Eastern Conference Finals, second year in a row, which is wild. But I think it's that depth, that pace, that grittiness that they come with. Not to say that the Knicks don't have that grittiness too. In a Thibodeau system, they grind it out. But I think that pace, if they can keep that pace up, I think that's going to make New York struggle a little bit. I wouldn't say they're just going to be bombing threes like the Celtics did, but they're going to get into it and they're going to get after it. And I think that gives them the bit of an edge. So it's been a great second round. Unexpected results. I mean, injuries have plagued the playoffs, but we're gonna get crowned a new champion this year, right? Which is crazy. The amount of players that have been to the finals, even on this team, is maybe one player. You know, a buddy of mine brought that up, which is wild as well too. But it's gonna be a good conference finals. Who do y'all got coming out of the East? Let me know. Is it gonna be the Knicks going to the finals, or is it gonna be an underdog Indiana team? Who do y'all got in the conference finals? I will say this. It's great seeing some of these old Laker players do their thing in the playoffs. Alex Caruso, that's my guy. He continues to be that guy. Just championship pedigree, providing that experience for OKC. You got Josh Hart on the New York Knicks, starting shooting guard, bringing that energy as well too. Julius Randle, again, I said, unsung hero for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's been playing great basketball. And you kind of go, damn, we let all those players go? We let all of them go, especially AC. We let him walk. Watching him play makes me sick. I'm happy for him. But we let him walk for THT. You know, Josh Hart throw in the AD deal, right? Julius Randle, we renounced his rights and he walked too. Granted, we signed Rondo for him to create that space, and we want to chip, but it's good to see. I mean, Thomas Bryant too on the Indiana Pacers, right? There's that depth. He's still doing his thing as a contributor, but again, we got OKC coming out of the West. We got Indiana coming out of the East. Y'all tell me what you think. Give me your reactions. Let me know what gives what team the edge. Like it or hate it, drop a comment and debate it.